Picked my late wife's cousin from a party, my feelings stirred unexpectedly, and now I'm questioning everything about our growing bond. I was with my wife, Julie, for 6 wonderful years. We met during our college days and everything between us just clicked from the start. We loved each other deeply, and I never imagined myself with anyone but her. After tying the knot, I accepted a new job in the state's big city. Julie was over the moon when she landed a position at a daycare. She adored children and found her true purpose there. She was beautiful inside and out, the only girlfriend I'd ever had, and I considered myself the luckiest man alive. A little over a year ago, everything changed. Julie was involved in a car accident caused by a drunk driver and she was killed. It shattered my world. Her family, my family, everyone who loved her was devastated. We'd just bought a house together. Suddenly, I was alone in an empty home that echoed with memories. Around that same time, Cassie, Julie's younger cousin, started college in our city. She and Julie had always been close. Cassie was one of the bridesmaids at our wedding. I met Cassie when she was about 16 and I was 22 or 23, and there was an instant connection, like we'd been friends forever. Maybe that says something about how mature, or immature, I was back then, but we always got along exceptionally well. Over the years she'd visit us, and we'd have so much fun together. Julie used to joke about how similar Cassie and I were. Same sense of humor, same interests, even the same favorite shows. Julie would even joke, "If I die, you should date Cassie." Of course, it was all in jest. I was 7 years older than Cassie, and I truly loved my wife. After Julie passed, Cassie was the only near family I had. I found myself spending more and more time with her. We grieved together, supported each other emotionally, and our friendship grew stronger. She gradually became my best friend, and I became hers. She even had a key to my house, and my place became her safe haven, especially when she broke up with her boyfriend. A month ago, Cassie called late at night, asking if I could pick her up from a party. Of course, I said yes. I loved Julie, and since she died, I hadn't been interested in other women, let alone her own cousin. But when Cassie stepped out of the house that night, something in me shifted. She looked absolutely stunning. That family is filled with beautiful women. Julie was tall with blonde hair, sparkling brown eyes, a radiant smile, long sexy legs, and a killer figure. Cassie, for her part, is just as striking but in her own way, auburn hair, piercing blue eyes, petite, and, well, quite top-heavy. Even as a teenager, it was clear she'd be a knockout one day. I hadn't looked at any woman that way since I lost my wife. The feeling was overwhelming, a jumbled mix of attraction, guilt, and excitement. The first thing out of my mouth was, "Wow." She just laughed it off and thanked me for picking her up. She asked to stay at my place since it was closer and she was a bit tipsy. She'd stayed over before. At this point, the guest bed might as well be hers. Before heading to bed, she hugged me tightly and kissed me on the mouth-cheek border. Not quite sure what that meant. She giggled, told me thank you so much, I love you, gave me a look that I hadn't seen since my wife, and disappeared into the spare room. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling and sorting through a tidal wave of feelings. Sadness, anger, happiness, guilt, longing. That night was a cocktail of emotions and confusion. Over the next few weeks, I noticed Cassie acting a lot more flirty than before. Maybe this had been going on longer and I just didn't see it, but suddenly it felt obvious. She touches my arm when we talk, laughs at everything I say, hugs me often, and we've been going out to dinner, just the two of us, more and more. One night while watching a movie together, she fell asleep in my lap. That same night she talked about a guy who kept trying to date her, but said she actually had her eye on another guy. She wasn't sure if he liked her back. Was she talking about me? It's been so long since I've dated anyone, and I've never been great at picking up on women's signals. Julie used to say I was completely oblivious to flirting. Maybe I'm overanalyzing Cassie's behavior, but sometimes it honestly feels like I'm dating her without saying the words. I can't help but worry, am I just projecting my own feelings onto her? Or is something real happening between us? The last thing I want is to ruin this incredible friendship. Our relationship is the brightest spot in my life these days. But if there's something more, where does that lead us? The complications if we made it official would be huge. I want to move on, and I know Julie would want that for me, but is it right to do that with her cousin, her own bridesmaid? I haven't seen her family in months since the funeral. Would they approve? Would my own family? Am I just being weird about the age difference and the family ties? Is it even possible for it to work? If Cassie feels the same way, does she feel as guilty as I do? The guilt is crushing at times, like somehow I'm cheating on Julie, even though she's gone. My feelings are tangled beyond recognition, and I have no idea what to do next. Update 1. It's been an interesting couple of weeks. I took the advice of everyone and really sat down and thought about what I wanted. Do I just want a new relationship or do I want a new relationship with Cassie? I came to the conclusion that I just didn't know if I could tell the difference between the two at the time. What I did know is that I didn't know. If that makes sense to anyone. On the one hand, I'm ready to move forward with my life and I want to be happy again. But on the other hand, is that feeling of wanting to move on just me projecting my wants onto Cassie, or is my growing relationship with Cassie what is making me want to move on? The weekend after I made my post, I had some friends over, Cassie included, and we had a fun night of college football and Cards Against Humanity. The whole night Cassie was by my side, and at one point later in the evening when everyone was getting tired, she rested her head on my shoulder. I got the weird butterfly feeling in my stomach again. Everyone eventually left except for Cassie, who stayed longer to hang out a bit more and help clean up. We ended up talking for a while about everything and nothing, and eventually the topic of the night I picked her up from that party came up. I mentioned how she looked gorgeous and how every guy there must have been all over her. She told me how they were just horny boys, then joked about the situation, saying that she just shooed them all away if they tried to flirt with her. That's when I asked her, "Cassie, have you been flirting with me the last few months?" "I know." Great segue. She looked taken aback and a bit surprised and gave me a half-hearted response of what? Almost like I caught her in the act of doing something wrong. I pressed further and she eventually admitted that she had indeed been flirting with me and that she had started to develop feelings for me. We proceeded to have a very open discussion about our relationship, our feelings, and our concerns. I told her that I don't know what I want right now, but I'm ready to be happy again. I explained how confused I was about the entire thing. I told her my concerns over jumping into a relationship with her, specifically because of her age and her relationship to my wife. Then I got to hear her point of view. I found out she always thought I was cute, ever since I met her when she was 16, but there was never an attraction to me because I was dating her cousin and I was so much older. Over the course of this past year and some change, she has grown to enjoy my company quite a bit and has gone through the same confused emotions that I spoke about in my last post in regards to my wife, her cousin. She gave it a lot of thought and came to the conclusion that Julie would want me happy and she would want me with someone she trusted to take care of me. She wasn't sure if I was ready to move forward with anything, so she started flirting innocently with me a few months ago to test the waters. I was oblivious. She continued to flirt with me until that night I picked her up. With her inhibitions lowered, she threw caution to the wind and made a move with the kiss. She told me that she couldn't sleep that night due to excitement, embarrassment, and wondering if I got the hint. I told her I finally got it loud and clear and she laughed at that. I reiterated that I was still confused about everything and that I needed some time to come to grips with my emotions before I can do anything else. She completely understood and told me that she would respect my decision, whatever it may be. I didn't see Cassie the next week due to her classes and her respecting the fact that I needed some space to think some stuff out on my own. We did text, but it was nothing of any real importance, just plans for the coming weekend. I mentioned in the last thread that her 21st birthday was coming up, and it happened to be this weekend, the 12th to be specific, Cassie being the low-maintenance girl that she is just wanted to have a barbecue with her friends. We had it at my house because I had already promised her weeks ago under the guidelines of no drinking and driving by anyone who came. Her friends showed up, some of my friends showed up, and her parents even came down to celebrate. It was pretty neat seeing them because I haven't seen them in a while and I always got along great with her father. We have the same sense of humor and it's the same sense of humor that Cassie has too. I always enjoyed going over to my wife's family's events when he was there because he was someone I could relate to and talk to without feeling too uncomfortable. After a while, all the youngins were in my backyard having a good time playing beer pong and cornhole, so I sat down with Cassie's father to have a beer and chat to see how things were going. There was a bunch of small talk, and he asked how Cassie was doing in the city because he knows we hang out a lot. I told him she was staying out of trouble, doing well in school, and an all-around joy to have his company. Then he asked how Cassie and I were doing. This puzzled me. Valp, apparently Cassie had sought the advice of her parents in this whole thing. She has a great relationship with them, so I'm not surprised she asked for some advice, but I was surprised that she spoke with them about me specifically instead of using hypotheticals. What followed was a very good, in-depth conversation with her father. It turns out that they like me a lot and don't care one way or the other. They basically told Cassie to do what she felt was right and they'd support her either way. They know me and they know how well I treated their niece. They had voiced their two obvious concerns, age and my wife being her cousin, but said that I was a good guy and she could do a lot worse. If it was something that we both wanted, then they would support it. The gist of what he told me was, stop worrying about what everyone else thinks and just be happy. You've been through a lot, probably more than anyone your age should go through, but you deserve to be happy too. If you are worried about what I or her mother think, don't be, because honestly, we just want our daughter to be happy. If you make her happy, then we support it. After that conversation it was like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I didn't realize how much anxiety I had over her family's approval, but it was apparently quite substantial, probably the thing that was weighing on me the most and I didn't even realize it. I thanked her father, they said their goodbyes to Cassie and left soon after. I can honestly say that I had a great time the rest of the party. Cassie of course enjoyed her 21st birthday like anyone would. She didn't drink to excess but was definitely drunk. I let what seemed like a good half of the party spend the night just so they wouldn't drive, Cassie included. Around 1 in the morning I carried her up the stairs into the spare bedroom, but it was occupied by my buddy so I took her to my room and put her to sleep. I went downstairs and hung out with the other remaining night owls until I fell asleep on the couch around 3. I woke up Saturday around noon to the smell of bacon. Cassie was cooking breakfast for the couple people that were still there. Apparently many of them woke up early to go tailgate for their school's football game. I am not 21 anymore. I cannot do that after the night we just had. When I walked into the kitchen, Cassie gave me a big lingering hug and thanked me for everything. After breakfast, the remaining people that were still there left to try to get some tailgating in before the game as well. I went around the house looking for stuff to clean, but apparently Cassie had gotten to it this morning with her friends as a sort of thank you for allowing the party to happen. Cassie is a sweetheart. The rest of the afternoon was Cassie and I hanging out watching TV on my couch together. Eventually I found the balls to bring up the topic we had discussed from the week before. I laid it all out right then. I told her I think I know what I want now. I want to be happy again. I don't know if I'm ready to jump in head first, but I can tell you that I sure as hell enjoy your company and you are the person that makes me the happiest. So if you are willing to take things slowly, I would like to give it a try. She had the biggest grin on her face and she leapt forward and gave me a big hug. When I embraced her in return, I had the same feeling in my gut from the week before. I felt dizzy in a good way, and I didn't want to let go of her. We cuddled, something I haven't done in over a year. Christ did I miss it, and watched TV the rest of the night. We ate Mexican for dinner, and that night before I went to bed she gave me a kiss on the cheek. She respected my boundaries and volunteered to sleep in the guest room. Sunday was spent watching football, cuddling, playing with my dog, and a dinner that Cassie made. I never really realized how much I missed the intimacy of contact with someone until Cassie started to cuddle up on me. This weekend, when she laid her legs over mine on the couch, I damn near fainted from the excitement. I forgot what it felt like when someone you have a thing for cuddles up next to you. It might be kind of sad to admit, but it was a real head rush. So yeah. I'm not as melancholy as I was with my original post and I think I'm doing a lot better now. We are going to take things slowly in regards to the physical aspect of things, so right now it's strictly PG with hand holding or things of that nature. We aren't broadcasting it out there for everyone to see, but if they ask, we will be honest. I'm at work right now and will do my best to answer any questions you guys might have as quickly as I can. Update 2. I fought the urge to say something along the lines of we're pregnant. Or we're getting married. Because that joke gets used too much around here on these updates, but the truth is pretty boring. We broke up, things were just too difficult, the age gap, the stress of the families, and on top of all of that, she cheated on me. I found out when I saw the positive pregnancy test fall out of her kitchen trash after my dog knocked it over. We hadn't had sex yet. Okay, yeah, I'm lying. We're still very much together, things are great and this update is boring. I wish I had something more exciting for you guys, but I think the rom-com is over, the credits have rolled, and the characters are now living their normal day-to-day lives. She lives relatively close to my work, so we've been having a lot of lunch dates. Sometimes out for food, sometimes she brings it, sometimes I do. It's really nice. Things are great and we haven't had any real issues. One piece of advice I have received from people has been don't compare Cassie to Julie. It's not fair to either of us if I do it, so I've done my best to stay away from those thoughts. For the most part it has worked. Every once in a while I'll be in a situation with Cassie that hits me with nostalgia about Julie, but I just try to keep those thoughts to myself and deal with them as they come. Cassie can tell when it happens. She always asks if I'm okay and I say yeah, just give me a moment. I sort it out in my head and tell her when I'm good. First time it happened was when I heard her say irregardless for the first time. Julie would say it too and I'd tell her it wasn't a word every time she said it. But those moments are few and far between, so they don't put much of a strain on us. It took a few weeks, but we eventually elevated the relationship to the next level, I guess I'm going to call it. I don't know how to say it without sounding crass, but you get what I'm saying. I thought it might take longer for me to be comfortable enough to go forward with it, but I could only handle so many days of seeing her in yoga pants before I was ready to explode. And it was good. It was very, very good. It's one of those things I want to go into great detail about because I'm so excited for myself, but it would probably come off as boastful and inappropriate, so I'll just say that we are very compatible in that area and she makes me very happy. Thanksgiving has come and gone. That was fun and slightly awkward. My parents had already been introduced to Cassie the cousin/bridesmaid, but it was a little different introducing them to Cassie the girlfriend. My parents were just as hesitant as I was at first due to the possible fallout with her family, but once I told them how her parents were fine with it, they seemed relieved and welcomed Cassie in with open arms. An awkward drunk uncle moment happened, everyone has one, in which my uncle complimented Cassie on how pretty she was and then said something along the lines of I mean you're not a bad looking guy, but damn. Where are you getting these women? You have some catalog you can order them from? Yeah. My aunt shut him up pretty quickly. He later apologized. I wasn't offended, Cassie wasn't either, but it was still pretty awkward. We swung by Cassie's family's dinner as well because that's a benefit of having the two families live in the same area. 2 dinners. They were just as fun and welcoming as I remembered. No drama there. Not only are they all good looking, but they all cook the best food in the world. I'm looking forward to more meals with her family. Christmas is coming up, so she will be on break from school for a while. I'll have a few days off of work and we'll be able to spend a lot of time together. Update 3. This year, it was Cassie's idea to spend Christmas Eve and morning at my house. A second Christmas, she called it, just us and my dog, who now thinks he's contractually obligated to sleep between us every night, growling with suspicion at any attempts at kissing. Cassie showed up lugging a suitcase and 2 dozen cookies she baked herself, because, in her words, store-bought feels disrespectful to Santa, in a hideous red and green sweater she proudly stole from a 1989 sitcom. She came bursting through the door with cheeks red from the cold and arms full of ridiculousness, cookies, gifts, and that painful, excitable energy that made it feel like we were kids again, sneaking downstairs past midnight just to check. It hit me that the joy in those moments wasn't dulled by nostalgia for Julie, but sort of illuminated by it. Julie loved Christmas, but Cassie does too, maniacally, unashamedly so. The night before, as cheesy as it sounds, Cassie insisted on writing letters to our future selves. Hers started, "Dear 35-year-old Cassie, if you're still with this dork, hug him for me." I tried to be a wise old sage, but mostly ended up making jokes until she threatened to glue a Santa beard on me while I slept. At midnight, we exchanged one present apiece. She gave me an old copy of The Hobbit, because, and I quote, "It's about a guy whose life gets blown up by a gigantic loss, but then all this wild stuff happens and he admits it's not so bad after all." I just stared at it for a moment, the symbolism so on the nose it made me laugh. I gave her a letter I'd written, clumsy and honest, about all my stupid fears, including the one where I screw this up, but also including, for the first time, that I love her. I said it bluntly, almost awkwardly, and suddenly, even though her eyes got watery, she just grinned and kissed me. In the 3 seconds after, those months of guilt, confusion, shouldn't we, it was like a knot loosened. We said it again, out loud this time, and the reality was ridiculous and sweet. Christmas Day, her parents FaceTimed to shout Merry Christmas and tell embarrassing childhood stories. My parents called, and for a couple hours it felt like the entire universe was conspiring to throw turkey, tinsel, and cousin jokes our way. Her dad even said, "Well, this is the weirdest, happiest Christmas we've had for a while." I expected to feel awkward about it, but it felt like a chapter turned. Everything in my brain was quiet for the first time in a long time. No more guilt-ridden second-guessing, just that sensation of we're really doing this. After that, we packed up the car and drove 3 hours to her family Christmas with her extended family, the big one, the one I dreaded. I'd been to this gathering when I was Julie's husband, card games, wine, kids everywhere, potluck dishes that could win awards. The first polite hellos were strange. People weren't sure what rules to follow. Was I still family as Julie's widower, or something else? Cassie stuck to my side, and after about 20 minutes, her grandma, always the matriarch, came up, gave me a long hug, and said, "You're still family, always, but we're moving your seat this year, Cassie's orders." We all laughed it off and, just like that, things relaxed. That night, after dinner, it was just the two of us outside shoveling her parents' driveway. Her dad swore it's romantic. In the glow of the porch light and our own visible breath, Cassie said she'd overheard her aunts gossiping. There was curiosity, some worry about the age gap, a little bit of unease, but, weirdly, none of it felt heavy or mean. They were just adjusting. She squeezed my hand, said, "If we can survive Aunt Connie's opinions, we can survive anything," and kissed me right there, with her nose freezing. We crashed in her old bedroom that night, surrounded by grade school trophies and dorm posters. We binge-watched half of Home Alone before falling asleep in a tangle of limbs, fully clothed under layers of blankets. I realized again that the guilt and fear I'd predicted, the awkwardness and secrecy, it was fading, like winter light. It wasn't that we stopped missing Julie, or ignoring the strangeness of dating her cousin. It's that the happiness eclipsed it, or maybe included it. None of this would make sense without her, but her story isn't over. It's just not the headline anymore. New Year's arrived, and instead of another party, we took a spontaneous road trip to see the Northern Lights, something ridiculous Cassie put on her bucket list for 2024. The sky put on a show, everyone else was asleep, and we just stood in silence, dog in tow, up in the freezing dark. It felt like permission to dream again. A couple weeks into the new year, Cassie had a stretch of time off before spring semester. She moved in. Not in a dramatic, move all your stuff way, more like, my lease is up, I'll bring a few suitcases, but it felt right. I cleared out some closet space. She made fun of my taste in shirts. We started a tradition, lazy Sunday pancakes, alternating who cooks. I burned the first batch, and we both dissolved in laughter that somehow turned into a flower fight and ended with a shower, a steamy one. Old friends started to find out. We got texts, a few double takes, but no explosions of drama. Even Julie's mom called to say hello, asked how we were doing, and told us she hoped we'd visit soon. The biggest, scariest thing came last week. Cassie sat me down after dinner, looking nervous. She told me she'd applied to a graduate program in our city, 2-year, full-time. She wanted to stay, but she also wanted to be capable of loving you with my own feet on the ground, not just in your shadow. She asked, "Are you okay with me not making your life my whole life?" I just grinned, realizing that was the thing I loved most about her. She wasn't filling a void, she was building something new. I said, "That's exactly what I want." She hugged me so tight my ribs creaked. "We aren't getting married, we aren't pregnant, the world isn't throwing us any more movies inspiring drama. But every night now, there's this peacefulness, a sense that, yeah, this is wild, but it's ours, and we survived the hard part. I can genuinely say, I'm happy." For anybody still stuck in old grief, or second-guessing the ways life can get messy or take left turns, sometimes the strangest possibility turns out to be the best kind. Even if it's complicated. Even if you have to scoop cookies off the living room floor because your dog tried to eat Santa's gift. Even if, sometimes, you still miss the person who got you here. I think that's exactly how it should be. Update 4: If you told me 2 years ago that my life would turn into Groundhog Day with a side of sitcom and a sprinkle of midlife coming of age, I'd have told you that the big city had finally driven me off the rails. Instead, here we are, Cassie and I have slipped into this weirdly functional, happy, almost surreal routine. Life didn't explode or quietly fade or even really settle, at least not in the ways I expected. It's just grown, changed shape, gotten stranger, and much, much better. The dog still considers himself our benevolent overlord and chaperone, except now he's developed a possessive streak with Cassie whenever she's on the phone with anyone but me. We think he might have imprinted on her as his second people. Cassie takes it as a compliment, even though he literally knocked her latte off the nightstand in protest last Sunday. You live, you learn. A few months back, Cassie got accepted into that grad program. She's been juggling readings about childhood development and pop quizzes on Piaget with an energy I remember vividly from my own hyper-caffeinated undergrad years. But the real surprise, she's so good at it. There's this fierce confidence to her when she's on a project call or writing up a paper on our kitchen table, with her old headphones looped around her neck. There are highlighters everywhere, color-coded sticky notes on every vertical surface, and at least one mug of cold tea per square foot. Our place looks like a Lisa Frank fever dream, and I love it. She made friends with one of her classmates, Val, and pretty soon we had a rotating cast of study orphans showing up for last-minute group assignments or the occasional impromptu dinner. The apartment started to feel less like an echo of my old life and more like a real, bustling home. For the first time since Julie, it felt alive again. Of course, none of this happened without a few honest-to-God weird patches. Cassie and I went to lunch with Julie's mom and dad in February, just the four of us, in a cheerful little breakfast place that smelled like syrup and burned toast. It was, hands down, the most nervous I've been in years. I hadn't seen them outside of holiday card exchanges since Christmas. The conversation tiptoed around small talk for a while, then Julie's mom just looked at us both and asked, dead serious, is this real? Cassie reached for my hand under the table, the first time we'd actually done that in front of them, looked her aunt straight in the eye, and said, yeah. It's real. It's good. There was a long pause. Julie's mom actually smiled this tired, warm smile and said, that's what she'd have wanted for both of you. You know that, right? There were tears, but also laughter. And when we stepped outside afterward and hugged each other in the parking lot, it felt like some invisible thread had finally untangled. That day, when we got home, I found myself talking about Julie more openly with Cassie than I ever have. Not in that careful, let's protect the new girlfriend from the ghost way, but as part of our actual life. I told Cassie about the time Julie tried to cook lasagna and nearly burnt down our first rental kitchen. Cassie, ever competitive, tried to outdo the story by nearly dropping an entire cheesecake on my feet the next week. I laughed for what felt like ages. It was such a dumbly domestic, ordinary thing. But it mattered a lot. Spring rolled in, and Cassie decided we needed to make new traditions. She planned a Memorial Day picnic at a park neither of us had visited. We accidentally crashed a corgi parade and ended up meeting at least a dozen tiny, derpy corgis in costumes, the dog equivalent of Comic-Con. She took 100 photos and insisted we print a collage for the fridge. We also started volunteering. Cassie signed us up for a reading program at her daycare. I was Mr. Storytime, her label, not mine, reading books to a tornado of preschoolers every other Saturday. I'll admit, the first time a 4-year-old called me Cassie's boyfriend and asked if I was going to marry her and be a dad, I stumbled over green eggs and ham, turned bright red, and Cassie did not let me live it down for a month. Speaking of, Cassie's new friends have taken us under their wing as the actual grown-ups in the group. There was a trivia night where Cassie swept the whole 90s pop culture category while I managed not to embarrass myself on sports stats. We started hosting themed potlucks, comically bad movie nights, taco bars, even a ludicrously competitive Mario Kart tournament at our place. It wasn't all picture perfect, obviously. There was the morning Cassie slept through her first big midterm because my alarm didn't go off, the time I brought up Julie in a way that made Cassie cry. I just needed warning, I'm not mad, just surprised, she said, the run-in with an old friend of Julie's who cornered me in the grocery store and quietly asked, is it weird? With Cassie? I just nodded and said, yeah, sometimes, but it's real. Somehow, I felt okay about it. Last week, this is the really wild part, Julie's old college roommate, Lauren, called out of nowhere and invited us to her wedding in the fall. I couldn't imagine not having both of you there, she said on the phone. It still floors me sometimes, the way the universe conspires to knit weird, complicated families together again, even when you aren't sure it's allowed. Cassie and I took our first actual trip together, 3 days in Asheville. We hiked, we drank coffee in cafes with mismatched mugs, we played tourist. One night in the Airbnb, after a 2 chunky pizza and half a bottle of cheap wine, Cassie started talking future. Not marriage, not kids, nothing official. I don't even want the big white dress, she said, but someday. I'd like to come home to you for a really, really long time. I told her I felt the same way. And now, I realized something new, That my feelings for Cassie aren't in the shadow of Julie, or in competition with my grief. They're growing right there, in the open. Sometimes, I even think Julie would have found the whole thing hilarious. Told you so, dummy, she said, once, in a dream. Cassie and I are, in a word, okay. Better than okay. The future isn't certain, but it's wide open again. We're not normal, and the story didn't wrap up with a tidy bow or Hollywood ending. We're messy and weird, and half our kitchenware is from 3 different eras of my life. But there's laughter, and dog hair everywhere, and a feeling most nights that if all this can happen, maybe anything can. If you're reading this, wondering if things ever settle down after loss or if forging something new from old pieces can really work, let me tell you, it's possible. Not perfect, never perfect. But beautiful, and surprising, and, at the end of the day, real.